Hey there. It's a review for our Castles and Crusades campaign, session number 69. We picked up pretty much where we left off. The party, minus Barry, is in the lower level of Scion's tower. Scion is Barry's wizard mentor. Barry has just been sucked off to parts unknown by two of the spider fiend demons. These guys right here. Those guys, a custom miniature that I made. I made a couple of them. There's more in the works, but anyway, he gets sucked off into the Barry gets sucked off into the portal. Party is like, oh crap, this is not what we wanted to have happen, and they immediately like, we got to get Scion because somebody needs to help us because we need to figure this out. So they bolt out of the room. As they're going up the stairs, they are met by Scion, who's coming down the stairs in a hurry, and he wants to know what's going on. He doesn't go into a great bit of detail, but he lets them know that he could sense that something happened in the tower. Basically, these two demons teleporting into his tower he was aware of. And they quickly fill him in on what's going on. What has happened, and he's like, okay, follow me, and he brings them to his study. Now, some of the characters have been in his study. Lork and Sprawl. Renee never has, but Lork and Sprawl have. And he goes to his desk, and he pulls out this small metal box, and he opens it up, and there's a locket of hair in there wrapped in a gold band. And come to find out, it's a locket of Barry's hair that even Barry is not aware that Scion has. And the party doesn't question him too deeply about it, but they do ask about it. And he just says he likes to keep an eye on Barry when he needs to. So he uses that to, he brings it over to a scrying pool bowl that he has. And he casts a scrying spell, and he's able to see Barry, and he sees Barry in the tentacle clutches of this massive creature, and it's holding him up in the air, and it's having a conversation with him. And this creature is this huge, like it's female sort of. It is female. It has tentacles coming out of its head, and is at least 20 feet tall. Like, it's very big. Barry is conscious and alert, but helpless, basically. And the scrying doesn't last very long. He shuts it off, shuts it down, but he then goes to his bookshelf and pulls out this large red leather bound tome, and he puts it on the desk, and he starts going through it till he opens up to a certain page, and then he informs the party that he knows where Barry is. Now, the party's under the belief, from what they know of like the rod, that he's in the plane of limbo or someplace like that, because that's where Miska the wolf spider is imprisoned. But in fact, Barry is on the 14th layer of the abyss called the Steaming Fen, and he is in the clutches of the Chaos Queen herself. And so that is more information for the party. I think it also raised the oh boy factor of it. Like, we're in real. This is going to be a real challenge. But he quickly he goes on to say that he can get the party there, but they're going to need to rescue Barry. He is coming with them, but his primary thing is to reopen the portal so they can leave, because without him, they can't leave. So they quickly agree. They send Cosmo, who my friend Chris wasn't at the session, so Cosmo was kind of faded to the background, but they send him off. I think they gather Barry's stuff. I think that's what he did. So he comes back with Barry's things, and they get ready. So Scion tells Lork to move the carpet that covers the center of the room, and he pulls it back. And Lork has done this before. He pulls it back, and there is a teleportation circle and etched in the stone floor. Sion gathers everybody around. They get in. He casts a spell, and bam, they come out in this cave. And Sion tells they notice that he actually breathes a little bit of sigh of relief, and they ask him about it, and he was like, "Well, I wasn't quite sure where we would come out," and there was some questioning from like Lork about this to Sion. He's like, "What do you mean you didn't know like where we were gonna come out?" And this gave me an opportunity to. Our table sometimes busts into movie references, so I yelled at my son. I was like, "Hey, like teleporting into the abyss ain't like dusting crops, boy!" And everybody at the table who'd ever seen Star Wars got that reference immediately. So that went over pretty good. But he just tells him like, "Well, I wasn't 100% sure. I knew where he was going, but like it's difficult to teleport here." And he's just thankful they didn't wind up in like in the wall of the cave or something. But they're there. He casts a little bit of a spell on that locket of hair that he still possesses, Barry's hair, and he gives them a general direction out of the tunnel, out of the cave through one of the tunnels to go. They follow this along. Lork's up ahead, not super far, but just a little bit, and they travel for a little bit. The tunnel, there's a lot of heat coming off the stone. It's fairly warm here. So they're met by a couple of these guards. These are Nikoloths, I think that's what they're called. It's just a pre-painted miniature, but these guys come in pretty handy. I've used these a lot in various campaigns. They meet a couple of those, and the battle ensues fairly quick. I think they did take some hits, but I'm pretty sure they did. The party got pretty beat up through this as far as like those things were able to hit them pretty good. They come into another cave, and there's a few more of these those Nikoloths in there, and they end up fighting those as well, and they defeat them. But that was a really kind of tough fight. Like even like Renee, who's very tanky, he was getting hit a lot. But Sprawl's keeping everybody between spells and bandages. He's keeping everybody upright. And they had restocked their collection of potions of healing, so they're able to keep pressing on. In the cave, they find something. There's a table, and the cave is basically, if you look at the terrain here, the cave would have been over here. We did this battle Theater of the Mind, so there's a cave here, and then these stairs go up to this, and they can see this glow of heat, and it is very warm here. Prior to coming here, or getting to this point, Sprawl had cast Endure Elements, or maybe it was at this cave, I don't remember. At some point, he casts Endure Element spell, so the heat doesn't really affect them. So that was smart. That was a smart play. But in the cave, they find a table. And before the table is like the burnt husk of one of these Nikoloths. And on the table is Barry's belongings. So his bag of spell components, his scrolls that he keeps on him, all that good stuff. They find that, and they take it, and they collect it. So they come up into this what you see here. And they had kind of seen this area through the scrying spell before they teleported, so they were prepared. Sion had given them potions of flying because they didn't want to try to navigate these floating rocks that float over the magma that fills this cave. So they had potions of flying, so that was a good thought on their part. So they take them, they start flying over. Because they had seen in the second scrying, actually before they left, Sion had scryed again, and he saw Barry in this cage, and Barry's down at the end in this cage. So they start flying over. When they do, they are attacked by these guys, a couple of these guys. And these are, I don't know, greater death demons they're called. I just thought they were cool miniatures, and I used them. So they're attacked by two of them. They come in at two different angles, and one of them lets off this like screech, and everybody has to make a charisma saving throw, and everybody fails. So I rolled a d4 for each person flying over, and that was how many rounds they were affected by the fear, which they were basically, they couldn't do anything. Like they just were kind of, they didn't run away, but they were like frozen with fear. Fortunately for them, like Lork was only affected for like 1 round. Sprawl and Bodhild were like 4 rounds, and Renee was 2 rounds. So, and Scion stayed back here where you see that miniature, which is actually what we use to represent Scion for this adventure. That's actually a miniature for a character I play in a different game, but it was handy and it worked. So he stays back there, and as these things are attacking, they hear this crackle of lightning, and as a lightning bolt streaks across the cavern and strikes one of the descending demons, and that helps him a little bit. Lork gets over his fear effect really quickly, 1 round, and he starts doing battle with him. And Scion is actually using a wand, and he's hitting him with lightning bolt, bam, bam, and they that's helping him. Renee comes around after his 2 rounds, and he's able to join the fray. These guys are tougher than the Nicholas. I gave them, like, they have 4 arms, so I gave them 4 claw attacks. So they did that, and they had decent armor class. So it was a little bit of a tough fight. They're getting beat up and just getting chipped away at. Eventually, everybody is released from the fear, and they're able to get over to the far side, to where Barry's at. While that's going on, they hear this awful roar come from behind them, and emerging up from the magma is this Baylor. Whoop, geez, someone's knocked him over. Is this Baylor, and it attacks Scion. So Scion starts doing battle with this Baylor. And there's 2 cages on top of this. And in one cage, they see Barry. He's laying there. He's not moving, but he's breathing. In the other cage, they see a familiar face that they haven't seen in a while. Renee's never met this character, but like Sprawl and Lork have. And they see the goblin Crugnot, which they've encountered a couple times. And he's, if you haven't watched earlier recaps, he's been in a few sessions. He's very peculiar in the fact that he is clearly very, very intelligent. He speaks multiple languages and fluently, he doesn't sound like a goblin. He wears like these layered robes that were once fancy, but they're in kind of shoddy repair. But they got a lot of like charms and stuff hanging off him. And one of the things that they always note is that regardless of what he does, none of those things ever make any sound. Like they don't jingle, jangle, or anything like that. They don't make any sound. In Barry's cage, they see the husk of a very small creature, a burnt husk, and about the size of a quasit. And Crugnot greets them because he recognizes Lork, he recognizes Sprawl, and they're definitely not friends with Crugnot. They're very suspicious of him. They don't quite know what he's all about because he's so different. But he just basically says, "Oh, I popped in here for a visit, and the Queen of Chaos locked me up. And could you, he basically is like, could you be so kind to free me?" And they're like, I don't know about this. Lork wants to get to Barry. The cage door is locked. They don't have Cosmo because Chris wasn't there, so don't really use player characters that way when the player isn't there, unless the player gives permission. And most of the guys don't want to run someone else's character anyway. We've done it a little bit, and if we do that, they get XP for the session. But if they don't, their characters don't get any XP because you have to be here to get XP. But if you do allow in our group, the group to use your character while they're gone, you will get XP, but you can also be killed. So you're not just fading to black. So we typically don't do it. They just are not there. I think Cosmo was kind of like coming along, but like he really just faded to black. So it falls to Lork to get these cage doors open. Lork has a giant belt of giant strength that he got from the demon the Butcher when they killed him. And he rolls a strength check, rolls really well. I think it was like 30 plus, and he just rips that door, the first door right off the hinges, tosses it, goes in, does the second door to get into Barry's cell. And I think they use the magic healing gourd that they found a long time ago. About the same time was the first time they met Crugnot, to bring Barry back. So Barry's back with them. You know, he's not doing great. He's had there's been some fallout from him being dragged into this plane of the abyss. The big one is his link to his familiar has been severed, because he can only be a mile apart from his familiar, and it's been severed. So if you're not familiar with Cast Crusades, the familiar gives the spellcaster several benefits. One of the big benefits is additional hit points. So Barry loses basically a third of his hit points. He also loses a level of experience. So it's fairly significant to get your familiar, losing your familiar. And that happens. So he's in a weakened state. Meanwhile, the battle between Scion and this Balor continue. Crugnot is like, you know, hey, again, asking the party if they could help him out. He also sees that they have the Staff of Tamlin Row, which is a magical item that Barry has. And it was also an adventure where when he got that staff, Crugnot was in that adventure because he was also looking for the staff. He doesn't appear to want it. He's just very fascinated that they got it. And Lork kind of reluctantly kicks in Crugnot's cell door and frees him. The closet, the burnt closet, before Barry comes around, Crugnot tells them that he tried to take something off of Barry and then it fried him. And they look, and Barry still has the two pieces of the rod. So they're like, oh, well, that's interesting. Is that an effect of now having the two pieces joined that only certain people can carry it? They're not sure. But Barry still has the rod with him. So they're free just in time to turn around, and they're coming back. I think Barry casts Fly on himself so he can get across. And they start coming across. They're attacked by two more of the Greater Death Demons. And in the midst of that battle, they hear and see Scion. They hear this, the Balor's got his whip, and he snaps it out, and he snags, they're both flying at this point. He snags Scion and like drags him to him. And when he drags him to him, he runs him through with his flaming sword. So Barry sees his mentor impaled on this Balor's sword. So their goal is they're like, we need to get him because we need him to get out of here. And so Lork and I think it was Lork and Sprawl actually fly over to get him. And Lork is able to pull Scion away, and they start to flee back towards where the cages are. And the Balor snaps his whip out again and hits Lork with a Flame Strike spell. This was significant because it did like 46 points of damage. Lork had already been taking a lot of damage, and he is very badly hurt in this. Scion is like just cooked to a crisp. Like, he's basically a blackened husk himself now, but Lork holds on to him. They get, what I found out afterwards, because I've mentioned this before, I don't pay attention to it while we're playing, is that attack dropped Lork to 1 hit point. He was down to 1 hit. I wasn't sure. Like, when I rolled the damage, I knew it was a lot, and he had also been taking a fair amount of damage in the fights with the Greater Death Demons. So I knew he was in rough shape. I thought I actually was going to probably kill him with that attack, but 1 hit point. So they get back, and Crugnot's like, hey, he goes up to Barry. He's like, we need to leave. And he's like, I can get us out of here. And so he casts teleport. They gather the party around, and bam, they teleport and they leave the abyss with a dead Scion in tow and almost very dead Lork as well. They bamf out. They come out on the road to the mining town west of Arden. They're familiar with that area, so they recognize it. They part ways with Crugnot. There's no like hugs or anything like that. They're still very, very wary of him, but he like gives them a wink and off he goes. This brings them back to Arden. Now the party debates, what are we going to do? Like, what are we going to do about Scion? Are we going to raise him? Are we going to try to get him raised? I'm like, there's nobody right now in Arden that could do it. Sprawl talks to his mentor, the dwarf that runs the Temple of Throster, and he tells him that there's a dwarf that he knows, a follower of Throster, that lives to the south beyond Dornval in the hills, named Throzic, that would likely be able to do it. So they make the decision to head south. They're going to go to Dornval, as much as Barry doesn't want to go to Dornval, because one, he's wanted there and magic users are outlawed. So he's on shaky ground there. So, but they head that way anyway, and it takes about a month for them, a little under a month for them to get there by wagon. They go there, and they got to get a gem. They need 1,000 gold piece diamond that's worth 1,000 gold pieces for the spell that they want to cast. So they need that component. That's something I would never just hand wave. I hand wave some component stuff, but that's pretty significant. So that doesn't get hand waved. They go to the gem shop and they see the guy, like the shop's being boarded up, and there's a older man boarding it up, a younger man there that looks a lot like the older man, and a woman. And the guy boarding it up, I think his name was Allard. He, that's in my notes, but I may have got that wrong. But anyway, he tells them that he did have something like that, but last night his shop was broken into and he was cleaned out. So they offer to basically investigate this. Excuse me. They go in, Sprawl, and the party goes in. They start looking around, and Lork finds. He's looking for tracks. He doesn't really find tracks, but they do see a spot on one of the cabinets on the base of it where there's like this sticky, basically like spider web stuff. And the shop owner tells them that's where they found their watchdog, and he had been stuck to this cabinet and suffocated in the attack. But they had to pry him out of this stuff. So it's like this spider web type material, and Barry collects some for maybe spell component use. And they look around some more. They go up into the attic, and Lork is able to spot like this vent window that's not super, it's not real big, but it's not tiny either. But it's kind of small. Like, it would be tough for, like, Lork wouldn't fit through it. He's too big. But he notices it ever so slightly that it's been moved ajar. So they investigate a bit further. They see some roof tiles are missing and are on the ground below. So somebody came in from the roof. So they're like, well, we need to figure out what's going on. They have a couple contacts in Dornval. One of them being Cosmo's uncle Slim. And Slim is he's kind of a shady character. He is a shady character. Not a real bad guy, but he's not like, he's kind of the black sheep of the family. So Cosmo narratively had already broken off from the party. So they go to the Hammered Gauntlet, which is an inn that caters to adventurers that they'd stayed at before, where they'd met Uncle Slim. And sure enough, they go in, they talk to Lily, one of the owners. She's a halfling, and she runs the bar there. And they're like, she tells them, like, yep, Uncle Slim's in the back gambling, and Cosmo is with him. So they go in, and sure enough, sitting at the table is Cosmo and his Uncle Slim and like 3 other guys, and they're all playing cards. Per the usual, Uncle Slim's not doing well, and we rolled a die, and it was just, simple, like, D20 roll, so I rolled poorly, which played out perfectly, because Uncle Slim is usually down on his luck, so he's not doing that well, and neither is Cosmo, so they lose that hand, and then they break off and go with the party. Uncle Slim tells them that there's been a string of burglaries in the city, and they're not burglaries sanctioned by the Thieves Guild. they are like all the places that have been hit. So far, like they all pay protection money, so that doesn't happen. So it's outside the Thieves Guild, but for some money, he'll need some money to get people to talk. And this was a nice little dialogue between actually Uncle Slim and Lork, because Lork was like, "Well, I'll just go," and Uncle Slim's like, "Nobody's going to talk to me if you're there, because you look like just walking murder. So they're not going to talk. So I just need money." So they slide Slim. Somebody slides him. Sprawl slides him like 10 coppers or something like that. And he's like, "Dude, that's not even going to get me a drink. So that's not going to work." He ends up. They give him like 50 gold pieces, and he's like, "I'll find out what I can find out, and then we will. I'll get back to you." So that's where we ended the session. We ended a little bit early so we could tally up XP and stuff, but we got sessions scheduled for September already, so we'll be right back into it, and they'll be investigating this burglary. Couple interesting things with this game. I had only prepped the beginning, Barry's rescue. Like I'd only done prep for that, this terrain and stuff like that, and the rest of it I had no idea where they were going to go, because we'd originally planned for a bunch of downtime, and then the dice did what they did, and then Barry got sucked off to the abyss. So the rest of it was stuff that I had like in my head, sort of. Like I know who these burglars are. They've been in my head for a while, but the rest of it was basically all improv and on the fly. So I like doing that stuff when I need to, and my goal is to make it look like I'm not improving. So I try that. The other thing of note, there's probably some other stuff I'm sure I'll forget, but the other thing of note is when we did tally up experience points, Lork reached 8th level. So we have 2 8th level characters in the party now, Lork and Cosmo. The others are at different stages. I think Barry's still, well, Barry's, he was 6th level at the beginning of this because of his level loss. Sprawl fixed that with a restoration spell, so he got his level back. But he can't have a familiar for a year. He can't recast Find Familiar for a year. So Dave is very carefully tracking in-game passage of time. So, because that's a big hit. He lost 1/3 of his hit points. So he's fairly squishy. He was squishy to begin with, but he's even more squishy now. So, but yeah, Lork reached 8th level, which is awesome. We're just over, we're around the 3-year mark for this campaign. 69 sessions, and we only have 2 8th level characters. And that comment was actually made favorably. Like our group really likes this compared to when we were playing 5e, where the leveling is just really fast. They like this slow leveling. We got 69 adventures out of these guys so far, and with a lot more to do. I don't know when. We don't have any end date, so we'll be playing this for quite a while. But yeah, that was it. I'll probably do my battery's dying on my phone here, so I might do a separate video on the terrain and miniatures, just a real quick one to show it off a little bit better, if anybody has any interest in that. But I thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you at the next one.